Sometimes 2 plus 2 does not equal 4. We will explain here on Canes Live, right here at the Voice of College Football, Wednesday at 7 Eastern every week with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Pull up, folks, and 60 minutes of your comments and questions as well. Cam, how you doing tonight?
Doing well, feeling good, feeling great. How are you?
I am doing just fine. And basically, my opening statement alludes to the fact that 13 incoming transfers, 27 lost. So if you're dealing with some kind of currency that's equal, then that's not a good thing. However, just look at the losses for the most part. Not that there hasn't been some value lost, but certainly recently, just roster management has been the core of the losses. While on the flip side, the guys that have hit campus, of course, the highlight last week was Damian Martinez, the first team all Pac-12 performer out of Oregon State, but two more very nice pieces coming in with, of course, you've got Jalen Alderman, who was an all-conference linebacking performer with Louisville, and then Sam Brown, who had 62 catches at Houston.
And then also the third one, I forgot to mention his name in our show prep, Diani Hill from Marshall, a cornerback. So he played on the defense coordinated by Lance Guidry and was coached by Chavez. No, it's not Chavez Grant. Excuse me. That was the Miami Hurricanes former player. And now my brain is not working, but the new cornerbacks coach who was at Marshall. First team all SEC, went to LSU, played in the league for a minute.
Chevis Jackson.
Chevis Jackson. There we go. Sorry. So coached by Chevis Jackson even last year, 2 years ago, on the defense coordinated by Lance Guidry. So, yeah, there's a picture of all four of those guys being Martinez, Alderman, Hill, and Brown wearing their jerseys on their visits together. And that's the Wendy's combo, 4 for 4, man. So all four of those guys, have said that they're coming to the U this year. And again, just roster optimization. Like you're making the roster better. And that's what you need to do. There is a manner of people management that happens with it as well. It is mid-cycle recruiting over like some guys who are there. And then that's going to, disenfranchise other people and have them leave. So, guys like Marcelius Pulliam, one of the most recent departures in the portal, linebacker, second-year player out of Georgia. He's a guy who I thought could have been special teams, maybe rotation, fighting for rotation snaps this year, then maybe like competing for a larger role next year. In the same way as like Caleb Spencer, not necessarily being featured in 24, but with a path to that in 25, if he puts in the work and is able to rise to the top. Unfortunately, those players, both and others, have chosen to go elsewhere. Guys like a Jonathan Dennis from South Dade Senior High School who went to Oregon, signed like with Mario, and then committed to Mario. Mario came here. He stayed going to Oregon and then transferred back here. And then, he's going somewhere else. There was another kid who wasn't going to play snaps, so I'm not really going to mention him. Chris Washington, he wasn't really necessarily going to play snaps, but an offensive lineman who was like a 3-year developmental player 3 years ago. And, you just have recruited way over him. So he's leaving, and things like that. And then you have some guys who have departed, who have found, soft landing spots. Jared Harrison Hunt continuing the American Airlines express flight from MIA to DFW and going to, that's from Miami to Dallas. He's going to SMU to play for Rhett Lashley with so many other former Hurricanes. And then Jakari Brown going up I-95, or the turnpike to I-4. And he's going to Orlando to play for UCF. And I think that is potentially a very nice fit for him moving forward. So, I don't necessarily know that he's going to be everybody's All-American or like an NFL prospect, but I think that like UCF does things that can really highlight his skill set. And I'm going to bring back a blast from the past in the recruiting world who should have played another position but wanted to play quarterback at the exclusion of anything else. But I said at the time, years ago, that Torrance Gibson's highlight film when he was in American Heritage was bubble screens and bombs. But you still you can score points with that. It was bubble screens and bombs in the passing game, and then they ran like inverted veer, or it was more inverted veer than the QB power because he really did have that give option to stretch the defense on those. But then he would run, and he was just big and athletic. And I think that you can do similar things with Jakari Brown from a schematic standpoint that they've been doing at UCF. So good for him, good for them. But just really focusing on Miami and. We're going to lose some guys that, maybe we did want. Jared Harrison Hunt was going to be a rotational or top of the rotation kind of defensive tackle. Maybe not like at the top, but like in the top 3 at defensive tackle. That could have mattered, and things like that. But yeah, we're still seeing roster optimization and really finding ways to go out and get the players that we need to really compete for, 10 plus regular season wins and championships, whether that's conference or more in this year. Like you have to go all in, and by getting all 4 of these recent commitments in the portal, that's a big step forward. I was on here last week saying that the Canes Connection Collective needed to put their money where their mouth was, and they have. So kudos to them, kudos to the staff for the way that they're recruiting in general, and continuing to optimize this roster moving towards 2024, because this is a all-in, chips to the center kind of season.
I don't pretend to know Jalen Alderman's game, what style of player he is. But if you look at the production, you're looking at one of the best defenses in the ACC last year. Of course, they advanced to the ACC championship game. They only lost 1 game in conference. He had 62 tackles. He had 7 tackles behind the line of scrimmage with an interception. So he was I didn't go through the first, second, and third teams of the ACC, but I would guess that he was at least an honorable mention, all ACC performer with those kind of numbers. So within the linebacking core, and I know that it's been somewhat of a disappointment, Cam, in regards to the level of play. And again, it would be interesting, since the 2 teams played, to just kind of ISO him and throw on last year's Louisville game that came down to a 4th down stop inside the 5-yard line to see what kind of game he had. But he's a pretty nice player.
Yeah, and I think that he's going to compete with Wesley Basaint for the starting spot opposite of Kiko Mamanoa, and add top line depth, that this is a guy who can step in and play. Like KJ Cloyd, who also came from Louisville to Miami last year. And when we went to a 3 linebacker alignment, was the 3rd linebacker in that group. Played major snaps for this team, had a big impact in several games. Jalen Alderman has the potential to do that as well. Diani Hill, also a cornerback. We're talking about really needing somebody there. And I think that he can be someone at the top of that rotation. He is not like an All-American who's coming over, but like even with Diani Hill as an older player, I feel more comfortable with where the cornerback room is now than a week ago. You lose Savion Riley, the transfer from Vanderbilt after spring, seeing how things were shaking. It was just like, hey, maybe I'm going to, go seek shelter elsewhere. But yeah, 55 tackles, a tackle for loss and interception, 10 PBUs last year and a forced fumble. That's not bad. Not bad at all. And again, when you already know the way that the coach works, because your position coach, Chavis Jackson, was your coach last year at Marshall when he put those numbers up. And then, you were there 2 years ago when Lance Guidry was the coordinator. Yeah, like that familiarity also helps things, where it's just like, hey, I know, because I've been in this room with with both coaches, like I can be the translator a little bit more. And like, I know that, at least Guidry's been here for a year, but having the player level leadership to say, hey, this is the drill, these are the reads, these are the things that, we're trying to do. It can really help from the ground level. And again, just that's like what KJ Osborne did for the wide receiver group when he was here, just showing them how to be more professional. And Diani Hill, I think, can take that internal leadership role of just being the decoder ring for what's going on defense a little bit, and that knowledge and clarity and communication will help hopefully everybody get on the same page and then have good level of performance. But yeah, I'm really happy with the state of recruiting from the portal. You get Damian Martinez to go along with Cam Ward. You get Sam Brown. Like I said, we needed another guy who could be towards the top of the wide receiver rotation. And you bring that guy in, and he's 6'2", 200 something pounds, running 4.5 or under. 815 yards and 3 touchdowns like you see last year. Bounced around a little bit, obviously, from West Virginia to Houston. But, this is a guy who, like I said last week, was seen, in pictures and videos, having a throwing session with Cam Ward in Texas, where they're both from. And that paid off. And, this is, again, not necessarily an All-American or anything, but I think that he slots in towards the top of the position group at wide receiver. And getting the best available guy at multiple positions is exactly where Miami should be. And moving forward towards the season. I love it.
What you know when you see this kind of production is that the floor is rather high. It's not okay. His recruiting ranking is this, and we know he runs the this in the 40 and all of this other business, and the talent looks good and he looks great in shorts. But no, he's caught 113 passes in major college football. So that the floor is high, that at least he can produce on the field to some degree. He's a productive player.
Absolutely. And we need productive players, and we need the kind of size for him that he embodies and brings to the roster, being one of the target wide receivers, for that X position. And whether that is him or Isaiah Horton now has actual direct competition for that X receiver role. And hopefully iron sharpens iron. We're like, okay, like he's already stepped his grind up. He reshaped his body, changed his number from 14 to 2, looks like a different guy. And then he's saying, okay, Sam Brown, come on in. And like, hey, look, you're going to play 7-8 receivers. You can get your snaps, but if you want the starter snaps and you want the big time snaps, you're going to have to go through me. I love it. And if Isaiah Horton is able to entrench himself and say, nah, dog, this ain't happening. We can play at the same time. You can go over there, but like, this is my spot. I love it. If he tries that and Sam Brown comes in and says, yo, you're standing there like Frederick Weiss in the Olympics, and I'm Vince Carter, and I'm going to jump over you and dunk on you because you tried to play defense. You tried to have that spot. I found a way to make it work anyway. And then Sam Brown is the guy who takes over that spot or wherever else. Made the best player on the field who will help Miami move forward be the one. And hopefully we continue to develop everybody together. Kevin Beer, the wide receivers coach, does a great job at that and has at multiple locations. And so, very excited to see that. But, I love having more talent in the room, and then y'all battle it out to see which one of the talents that we have will rise to the top and be there in certain situations and go make those plays. Absolutely.
Falconer TRX with his usual opening line, opening super sticker. We appreciate you, Falconer TRX. Falconer TRX's fame has grown to the point where on our previous show, the Florida State show, there was a Florida State fan who I'd never seen before. God bless him for giving. However, he said, I'm going to match Falconer TRX. And he had words to say. They weren't derogatory. They were in some fashion honorable in his admiration of Falconer TRX. And when you've got rival fan bases of Falconer TRX where they have fans who are wanting to be like you, there you go. You have set the standard, my friend. So great job out of Falconer TRX.
Very nice.
Comes back with this one. Miami to the Big 12 sooner than experts think.
I mean, is that a play on the University of Oklahoma with Sooner there? But
in cap with a lead in cap.
Right. Yeah. True. Well, and it is also the beginning of that sentence. So great
Oh, you're
punctuation,
right. You're right.
from you, Falconer. I just don't
You don't
for
want that.
I don't want. I mean, first of all, I don't want it. And I just don't see if we're leaving the ACC, which I desperately desire to be the truth. It would take such a godfather offer from the Big 12 to like even consider them. It would have to be, how Texas and Oklahoma both got double shares of the revenue. We're going to give you all of that and a little extra, like something like just dumb, like a third of the conference revenue, regardless of anything else across all sport. And like, like just, it would have to be, just such a like ridiculous offer. Because like, the SEC is the ESPN league and the Big Ten is the Fox league, and that money being put into the sport is driving everything. And like, it would just take such a godfather offer from someone else to have me consider that. And if it's not that, then that move would be absolutely moronic by whoever did that. And I don't personally think that Dan Radakovich or Julio Frank, the athletic director and university president, I do not believe them to be morons. So I don't believe that they would make this move, absent it being such just an overwhelming generational number. But I don't even see the Big 12 offering Miami that kind of a number. I get why they did Texas and Oklahoma because of, the history and the development of that league from when it was the Big 8 and, But like, I don't think so. Or maybe better said, I damn sure hope not. But, we'll see.
I am trying to shake my mentality that goes to 1995 and just the brand of the Big 12, the look of the Big 12. I think about those Kansas schools, those Oklahoma schools, those Texas schools. Shoot, half the conference is sitting in Texas. Mm-hmm. And I understand they've now spread throughout the nation. They've got a school that's what, 2.5 hours away from Coral Gables in UCF, maybe further than that, but
a little bit, but yeah.
Whatever it is. So I get that it's now a national conference. Shoot, they're all national conferences to some extent. But man, when I think about Miami past, when I think about Miami present, when it involves the relevance and the brand of the program, regardless of what has not been accomplished on the field in the last 20 years, we've talked about the connections to and why it makes sense to the Big Ten, both athletically and academically. And for the Big Ten, not just that this is a coup for Miami to get to the Big Ten, why it would be advantageous for the Big Ten to go after Miami. And then geographically, we don't have to explain why Miami would fit in the SEC and Florida's up the road. And they have history with those schools more so than any other conference outside the ACC. The Big 12, it just then to me, we would have reached that point where it truly doesn't matter that the fit.
I mean, it really kind of doesn't already. Like I mean, look, the LA schools are in the Big Ten now.
I know, but there's still kind of a cachet there.
I mean, but like geographically and everything. I mean, but you got the LA schools and then Washington and Oregon, and like it's just like, it's whatever. Like this is so far down the road of like the NCAA dynasty where it's just like, we're gonna go create a conference and just select whoever. Like that's kind of where we are, I think.
Yeah, at least with the LA schools, there's a Rose Bowl connection. There's long history of USC, Michigan, USC, Ohio State, UCLA in the Rose Bowl, and the Rose Bowl more so than the other bowl games. There's a long history of those two conferences meeting at the Rose Bowl and all that. And then just from a academic standpoint, the reputations of the schools and all that. And the Big Ten's been very aligned with the Pac-12 and in a lot of academic pursuits. And there just seems to be more of a connection. Whereas, again, when I think Big 12, I think Texas, I think Oklahoma, I think I think Dust Bowl. That's what I think. It's just a different vibe, lifestyle, everything from Miami.
Fair.
All right. Going to our next super chat. We appreciate you, SFC Kane. Love from an old head, Hurricane Logan. Good to hear from you. Hope life is
Nice.
well for y'all. Never around anymore due to my new position. Go Canes. Cam, you still the GOAT.
No, I appreciate that, man. It's good to hear from you. And as someone who has, started a new position myself, first of all, congratulations. And I understand because, onward, upward, and forward we go. I'm not the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed 24-year-old first-year teacher anymore. So I know that you're not either in your industry. But yeah, that's great, man. And like I said, I appreciate it. I just try to bring my brand of authenticity to the airwaves here. But yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's good to have you here.
I don't think Hurricane Logan would mind me saying that this has been a long, long time, but we connected a couple times on the phone and had lengthy conversations. And it was very nice of him to say all the things that he did about everything that we do here at the Voice of College Football with Cam. And certainly we appreciate your support and you coming back to say hi. Falconer. Miami always lives in the heads of FSU fans.
The FSU and Florida fans swear that they know more about the University of Miami athletic department and football program than anybody. Like, they just have so much to say. And especially, like, I didn't bring it up earlier in the transfer portal conversation, but I love how they're sycophants and people are trying to say Miami is completely they're just doing what Florida State did, and everybody said, oh, that was so terrible, and I'm like, by looking into the portal and going and getting what was there to be gotten, Miami's had top 8 classes the last 3 years. That's the foundation of the roster, and then we've gone and filled in some gaps, but last year's Florida State team, all transfers, all, including Jordan Travis, who, if you remember, was at Louisville first. So everything oh no, he's been here since. Yeah. He's been there for a long time after he transferred pre-pandemic, right? So even he was a transfer, right? And yes, quarterback is the most visible position on the roster. And we went out and got a guy who was at Incarnate Word and, then Washington State. But the foundation of this roster has been the high school recruiting and development. And then you fill in the gaps from there. Excuse me. The paradigm is not the same, but let the liquor tell it. FSU fans, oh, well, they're just doing what we did. And absolutely not, because y'all are not recruiting high school the same way. You're not developing from high school nearly at all the same way, right? But they're just chirping about it and all kinds of stuff. It's just really whatever. But yeah, but if you just look at that entire team from last year, bro, Keon Coleman, what's up, Michigan State? Johnny Wilson, I forget where he was, Arizona State. You know what I mean? Jaheim Bell, South Carolina. Jordan Travis, the running back Trey Benson, exactly, who was recruited by whom out of high school? Mario Cristobal, and was where? Oregon. If you just go up and down the roster, bro, both Jared Verse, University of Albany, Braden Fisk, fight on Western Michigan. Let's go over to Kalamazoo, where my cousin and multiple good friends of mine, went to college and graduated from. We can talk about that. If you go down the list for Miami, especially into last year, you're talking what? Javion Cohen, Matt Lee, and then the older Maui Noah brother, and Jaden Davis. That's it. It's not so many. Okay, well, Mesidor also. Okay, but Mesidor got injured and didn't even much play last year. But okay, a couple years well, there was a guy here and there, but you're looking at all who starred and were the players of note. They were recruited and developed. It's not the same. But again, Florida State fans, the University of Florida fans, chirp, 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 chirp. They want to say stuff, but I like to live in a world of facts. And unfortunately, their opinions are not supported by fact. But Don't let that fool you, because it will not stop them from sharing them, loud and wrong though they may be.
I was just working on some all ACC first, second, and third teams, which was kind of a, if you do it correctly, if you're just not spitting at the wind, we do it correctly. So I reviewed every player who was first, second, third team and honorable mention last year just to weed out, and the conflicting information of who is declared for the NFL draft and all that is just mind-boggling on the internet. You would think it'd be very clear to type in so-and-so guard Boston College and get declarative information, but you're like, wait a minute, it says here that he declared for the draft. Here it says it's going to be. Anyway, went through all of that, blah, 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 blah. There's also Fentrell Cypress, who is their best cornerback, who was all ACC at Virginia before he moved to Florida State.
I mean, he ended up really being their second best cornerback last year because Renardo Green did outplay him. But
Yes, true.
Yeah, like, again, top level players all over the field used to apply their trade elsewhere, which was not the case for Miami, but that's been our path forward. But regardless of any of that, and again, the loud and wrong opinions of Florida State fans, we need to beat them bastards this year. I'm tired of it. Mario, figure it out.
So yes, bottom line is all that matters is the head-to-head and then the final record and the ACC standing and all of that. But you bring that to the table in a way that makes it sound like you don't believe that that's sustainable.
That their recruiting,
their approach,
it's not sustainable. It's incontrovertibly not. It's absolutely not sustainable. Because you're not going to get the guys every year. Their number one target, where's number one for the University of Miami Hurricanes and Cam Ward? And they like to kind of hand wave that, but like they made a strong move to try to get Cam Ward. And then he was like, thanks, but no thanks. And then that's when the pivot happened, right? Like it is not sustainable. And I've spoken about this at length on here as well. I'm not going to go too deep, into the conversation, but that's the issue with Deion Sanders. When you build mercenary single-year teams, you might have the success that even Florida State saw last year with being undefeated through, all the way through the, into the postseason with the championship game, the conference championship game, and everything like that. I do not believe that is sustainable because you have to have development behind it, else you have to keep going and getting all the number one guys to replace that. And in the transfer portal, whether it was Miami, whether it was Georgia, whether it was Ohio State, whether it was god darn Ole Miss, look at their transfer portal class. Like they did work, but the difference maker guys from those different teams in the previous years, and I'll give them credit for that, went to Florida State. That's not the case here. So now what do they have and what behind that? DJU completing fewer than or under 50% of his passes for 177 yards in the spring game? And all of a sudden I'm supposed to believe that he's a different guy than I've seen for 5 years? Word? Well, Cam, he was a quarterback of a Clemson team that beat Miami. This Florida State team is not as talented as that Clemson team. Their defensive line is not stacked with first rounder after first rounder after first rounder after first rounder like those teams. I don't think that there's any running back on this year's Florida State team that is analogous to what Travis Etienne was. Are you kidding me? So no, I do not believe that it's sustainable. Even with, you can, with their methodology, the Deion Sanders mercenary, the Florida State 2023 mercenary mentality, you can hit the high notes like last year for them. You absolutely can. I do not believe that is consistently sustainable, and I think we're going to see it this fall.
There was an interesting article. I didn't read it top to bottom, but I combed through it for the key numbers on The Athletic. And I think they made this comparison because they were hired at the same time, the same month, December of 22, and because of their varying, the crux of the article was just the complete opposite ends of the spectrum of the approach of Deion Sanders versus Matt Rule. So Rule at Nebraska, it was like some ridiculous amount of high schools he's visited, 128, and made over 400 in-home visits while Deion Sanders, I was bringing this topic up during our Nebraska show. So I was asking the folks after I read off the Matt Rule numbers, what do you guess Deion's number of high school visits were, or his in-home visits? And people are thinking, oh, well, if it was 400 for Rule, it's 50. No, it's zero. It's zero on both accounts. Isn't visited any high schools or any in-home visits.
Yeah, it's comical, but yeah, it's also unsustainable. Like you can build single teams that way. You do not build a Kevin Steele program doing that. You simply do not. Even if you look to the professional level, yes, there's free agency. Yes, there's additions. Yes, there's, things like that. But you have the draft and you have the foundation of what is there, and then you change some things. You don't retool the entire roster and have it be successful. Now, if you retool the entire roster, now that's to build moving forward and then leveraging some of the foundation of that change in the future where, okay, we're going to keep these guys consistent and add this and add that and add this and add that. It's not a wholesale turnover all the time. And so, yeah, it's tried and true and proven in any industry. You can talk about, the former secret day job I told you I was at Starbucks. You're not going to get rid of your entire partner base of a store and bring in completely new partners and have the operations be the same. If you want it at your office job, if you want it with a musical group, with a sports team, with ESPN or whomever, you're not going to have wholesale change all of the time. Get the consistent results that you need. And then it's just people get myopic about sports and then say, oh, well, it's just players on the field. No, it's more than that, guys. It just and having the methodology of building a consistent organization, regardless of the focus, again, across any industry, across any output, if you do not have some elements that are consistent and are always ever changing, it becomes near impossible to have a consistent output. And in this time, we're talking about winning football games on a consistent level and a consistent basis. I just don't think it's sustainable. I just really don't.
Well, I don't think it's sustainable. The two caveats I'll place on both Florida State and Colorado being a completely different situation than any in college football, just because of the fame, the personality, and the brand of Deion Sanders. So maybe for a short period of time, he can get away with that. If he's mounting more and more 4-8, 6-6 kind of seasons, he's no longer going to be looked on at as Deion Sanders, who he is now. It's going to be, well, you're a flailing football coach is what he's going to be if he doesn't turn it around.
And he also won't be their coach when by the time New Year's hits. Like, that's not his plan. I don't know where he's going to go, but the way that he's running that organization, he's not planning on being there when the calendar turns to 2025. Like, it just, like, yeah, I'm not going to high schools and I'm not getting guys who might take a year or two to develop on the offensive line, which everybody needs. Wisconsin's built one of the best offensive lines in football. And with very few exceptions, those guys come in, they redshirt, they start playing on second team, and then maybe as a third-year player, they go. But then by that point, they're all 6'5", 315 pounds. They got man strength. They know their technique. They go in, they go to the league, and then by the time that guy leaves after his fifth year, you got another third-year guy to plug in, and that takes time for all of the guys, an investment to get there. He's not doing that. And I think that there are elements of not doing that in that same negative way up the road in Tallahassee. But again, if Mario keeps finding ways to lose to them, it really doesn't matter. So figure it out, work with your coaches, go to whatever clinics you need to go to, pray about it, get if you need to get a shot glass like I got here and you need to pray to Joe Boo like it's darn Major League or something, I don't care. But you have to beat these guys, because if you don't, then Mario's going to make me look like an idiot for saying that their success is non-sustainable if we're unable to take advantage of it. It's like 2016 when everybody still, when you look back, says, hey, you want to make fun of a team that a lot of people hate? Remember that terrible, very good, a very bad, no good Notre Dame team that went 4-8 in 2016? And you know who cannot celebrate that? Miami, because we went up there and lost that year. Now we blew their doors off in 2017, but people going back to that, that's the result for us. So this is why it's really important that we've gone out and we've gotten the guys that we need. And we need everybody, not just the players, but the coaches as well, to step their game up so that we now have the work product and the results that we need. So we're not stuck in the same 2016 Notre Dame situation where that's a terrible team, couldn't really, tie their own two shoes right, but we found a way to lose to them. Cannot do it. Mario must beat them. And look, we're not going to do it because we're not lame like these guys, but this is a state championship ring kind of a season. You start on August 31st, my cousin's birthday, against Florida, and then, you have Florida State later. Go beat both of them 2-0 against your big rivals. Bang, boom, done. But you have to go win the games, Mario. Otherwise, I'm just a guy here talking on the microphone saying, well, what they're doing up there is stupid, but if they keep beating us, how stupid is it, Mario?
I'm going to make an analogy, and it's going to be a little rough and a little clumsy. It doesn't work perfectly, but I'm going to take this rivalry with these two top-level programs, and I'm going to take it to the Big Ten with the two premier programs in the Big Ten and practically nationally in Ohio State and Michigan, and say what's going on there is Ohio State, if we put them in the role of Miami, at a much higher playing level at this point, of course, and Michigan at the same place as Florida State, but again, to a much higher degree that they've been able to win a national championship. You've got two of the top four programs, let's say, in the country right now. Ohio State is still laying waste to Michigan in terms of recruiting rankings, top 3 to 4 classes versus Michigan's top 15 to 20 classes. But Michigan's been able to supplement that in the transfer portal. Now, they haven't gone hog wild. If you look across to Cam's point, I'm in no way equating Michigan's transfer portal additions to Florida State's. No, Michigan is still very much homegrown, but key components along the offensive line, a corner here, a piece here and there, much more active in the transfer portal than Ohio State up until this season. Now we're going to see Ohio State kick in 24, but up until this season, the Ohio State team's been you talk about one corner that's it. The corner from Ole Miss, Davison, Igbignosin. Otherwise, they're all homegrown guys. And Michigan's been able to, now again, it's a rough analogy. We got culture, you got coaching, you got all these other things. But if you're just looking at player talent, Michigan's been able to supersede Ohio State's definite recruiting edge.
Yeah, and then we talked about this before, but Ohio State's averaged 11 wins a season, and Michigan had not that success when Harbaugh got there. Couldn't beat them for a while, but went and got them and passed them and, won the championship for the first time since 97 when I was sophomore in high school, But they're definitely, there are shades of it that are similar, but, at the end of the day, regardless of any of that, we have to make use of the players that we've gotten and beat those bastards. I'm sorry. Mario, you've been here 3 years and it's 3 L's to Florida State. At this point, come hell or high water, the Florida opener and the Florida State game, those got to be dubs. And again, this season has to be 10 or 11, if not 12 regular season wins. It just does. So, I know that we're working with, 18 to 22-year-olds, with the exception of, Cam McCormick, who, was my freshman brother at the U way back when. But other than that, hey, whatever needs to be done to get the result needs to be done, because that's just what it has to be this year. It just does.
Falconer coming in with will Mario's loafers out recruit Howard's pipe?
I Howard's pipe is in the Hall of Fame of recruiting, even though Howard Schnellenberger is not in the College Football Hall of Fame, which is still a travesty against the sport. So I don't know about that, but I mean, hey, he's going to do a damn good job. I know that.
Which we were having a conversation this week. Of course, Dylan Gabriel leaves Oklahoma, goes to Oregon. If he puts up the same season that he put up statistically last year, he will be number 2 in the history of college football in touchdown passes and in yardage. But if he's not a first-team All-American player, I can about guarantee he's never been a first-team All-American. He won't be in the College Football Hall of Fame because they have stupid standards about you got to be a first-team All-American, and you've got to have a stupid 60% winning percentage, even if you've built programs from the ground up.
Way less egregious for Dylan Gabriel, I think, than Howard Schnellenberger, but along the same path,
yeah. Falconer, how much should I donate to bankrupt the FSU guy?
Hey man, keep the donations coming. Hey, we'll just keep them coming, and then we'll see. So test it out.
Was there anything, Cam, about the NFL draft or the free agent signings from Miami after the draft that are of note for you?
First of all, congratulations to those who were drafted: Cam Kinchins, Jaden Davis, and James Williams, and Matt Lee. So 4 Miami Hurricanes who were drafted in that order, I do believe, by the way. Guys just continue to make wrong decisions. And I mean, look, you are able to choose your own destiny and make the choice that you believe works for you, and have it not be necessarily the best thing in the long run. But that's personal autonomy, right? Hey, I'm the captain of my fate. I'm going to make this choice. I'm going to go in this direction, and because this is what I want to do. But, I said it on the timeline. Well, somebody said, these Miami guys keep making bad choices. And I quoted that, and I said, yes, there are 2 levels of bad choices. One, there are lots of players who choose not to come to Miami, which is the wrong choice, I believe. And then 2, those who do come to Miami, a lot of them make the wrong choice to leave early. And I think we just continue to see that. Cam Kinchins was taken at 99th overall. There was not another Hurricane taken until the 7th round. It just, honestly, and I didn't say it because I just didn't want to give gas to the flamethrowers that I know that Florida and Florida State fans were just waiting to find anything on social media. It was a shit show for Miami, honestly, in terms of the draft. Leonard Taylor, 5-star, everybody's All-American coming out of high school, did not get drafted. And you're telling me that that's not a guy who could have used another year here, right? You're able to sign as an undrafted free agent and everything, but you're telling me that you wouldn't prefer to be a 3rd or a 4th round draft pick after a strong 4th year, as opposed to going through 200 and however many picks and not hearing your name called, right? That's embarrassing. And I mean, that's a lot on him because his motor was inconsistent and he flashed the kind of talent that made him a 5-star, but it was definitely not to the level of output that it needed to be. And then teams saw that and he tested athletically mediocrely or lower, so it's just well, you're not even a freak athlete and we're not getting consistent and good play out of you. It was tough to watch. And I mean, I didn't sit there and watch the entire draft. I watch a lot of NBA basketball and flip over when I saw there was a pick or something, but yeah, it was tough. I think that maybe only the one who could have, I think Cam Kinchins in the 3rd was about where I think he might have gone, even if he would have come back, just because he's not a super athlete, So I think, maybe he could have elevated up to 75-ish if he would have came back, but 24 picks in the same round-ish area, I think that was that. But yeah, for everybody else, I think there was poor decisions. Javion Cohen, transfer from Alabama. Like, I know that he did the Senior Bowl, and everybody at the Senior Bowl said, his film was better than when he was at Alabama, undrafted free agent. It just was, just emblematic of, what's been going on with this program for a long time. I know that there's been a lot of turnover, a lot of guys who have left through the coaching change from Manny Diaz to Mario Cristobal, who are still in college elsewhere potentially, but like, I don't necessarily know how high, if at all, Jalen Knighton or Romello Brinson or Jared Harrison Hunt or Donald Chaney Jr. or any of these guys who were here and have left. I don't know how high that they're going to go in the future. So, I mean, it was really, it wasn't fun, to be perfectly honest. And some of it, honestly made me sad. When I saw that Jaden Davis was the second Hurricane drafted, I said, whoa, buddy, this is going in a different direction than I thought it was going to. And I know they tried to put it up as like a, how they do the phone calls with all the players after they get drafted, and it's the GM and the coach and everything. It's a celebration. The James Williams one that hurt my heart. It made me sad because he was just crying, and it was relief that he heard his name get called. He didn't have to go to the UDFA route and everything. He's just, oh my God, coach, thank you so much. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Yeah. And like, even like the GM, he called him and goes, hey, yeah, this is the Titans. And he went to that, like, when you're watching the news or watching, a sporting event, and then they bring up, that someone associated with something has passed, whether, a pioneer of the sport or someone who worked at the company and everything. And that was the energy that both the GM and coach had. So, yeah, man, really appreciate it. Yeah, I know it's really emotional. I'm going to pass you over to the coach. Hey, man, yeah, really great to hear. Yeah, you're at home with your family. No, that's really great, and everything. You just hear him sobbing. Like, it was sad in like a piteous kind of a way. And I hate to say that, but that's what I felt. And then, they pass it back to the GM, and he's like, yeah, cool. Hey, we're going to give you a call. We're going to get you out here. Congratulations. And then they hung up, and then they did the performative applause afterwards, where it's just like, usually it's like, yeah, rah, rah, sis will bond. Everyone's like, woo, yay. And then like they did that round of applause afterwards. And I'm like, were y'all not on? Like, it was on speaker. Like, everybody heard this phone call. This was not a cause for celebration. It really wasn't. It was just, it was really uncomfortable. I pitied him in that moment, to be perfectly honest. And that was one of the lasting memories and things that I'm going to take away from this draft, unfortunately. Hopefully, moving forward, the performance of the players will be able to get back into an actual celebratory kind of a thing with, Tyreek Stevenson being a second round pick, another guy, and just moving forward in a good way to have Miami represented in the NFL. Speaking of which, Gregory Rousseau had his 5th-year first-round option for his contract picked up. Great, love that. Hopefully this time next year you're going to see the same thing for Jalen Phillips, who I know is coming off of should be actually now coming off of his ACL, or not ACL, his Achilles tear and things like that. But yeah, the NFL draft in so many ways was a really tough watch for Miami, and hopefully that will motivate everybody who's associated with the program currently to step their grind up, because it wasn't previously in this year for those guys who left, and I think it showed. So especially those guys who came back, like Akiko Mawinoa and others, like, yeah, really step their grind up, because it was a tough couple days for the Miami Hurricanes with the NFL draft, I'm not gonna lie. But it was a great showcase for the city of Detroit. I know y'all saw that, breaking records of attendance every day, turning people away. They had to go over to Hart Plaza. They had to go over into the old Cobo Hall complex. They went to the New Center area. 313, you see the city, you see how it's grown, being reinvested into and on such display. I have a couple friends who, from Cranbrook, I'm from Detroit, if y'all didn't know, but high school friends and things who were there and everything. So it was really a great, advertisement for the city of Detroit. If you have not been to the city of Detroit, I urge you to go. There's so much greatness there for you to enjoy on so many different levels. And hey, it's right across the tunnel or bridge from Canada. So if you've never been to Canada, go over to Windsor, have a good time over there as well. So that was the most enjoyable thing, I think, for me. But yeah, in terms of the Hurricanes, rough few days, not gonna lie.
Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. It's every Wednesday with Cam, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, talking Canes. Please tell your friends, bring a few along with you. Next week, we've got Paolo here with this one. In respect to the NFL draft, were there past players that you definitely knew should not have declared for the NFL draft? Joseph Yearby comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there are several that you can look at. The thing with Yearby is he was a running back, and he also had like reportedly personal situations, coming from, the city. You know what I mean? Like he needed to try to provide for family members and things like that. So that was one. I mean, it would have been better if he would have stayed, but personal circumstances might have impacted that. I think Brad Kaya was another one. He ended up, obviously having that um, hereditary back issue come up in his draft screening, and then his career in the NFL was short lived. I believe he just got his master's in screenwriting from USC. So going into the entertainment world, Brad Kaya. So great for him, but like in terms of football, like he was already the Miami Hurricanes career leading passer, but imagine that season in 2017 with him at the helm and everything. So I think that's another one. You can look at a couple other guys as well, but I mean, like if I were really to look at it, like there's more than a couple who have, I think, made some wrong choices. That's what I was talking about in the previous segment there. Yeah, I think that it's been pervasive for a long time of guys leaving when they should not have. And that is a situation that hopefully will rectify itself moving forward for the Hurricanes. But I get it. You do have to have a level of self-reliance, obviously, I think, to be great, especially in sports. And in so many ways, these guys are saying, hey, I'm going to bet on myself. And for the most part, it's been coming up snake eyes when they've been trying to roll sevens. And, with very few that have panned out. Like I mentioned, Gregory Rousseau played 1 year, remember, at Miami, redshirted, gained that weight, played a year, had 15 and a half sacks, sat out the COVID year because his mother was a nurse and, frontline worker and everything. So he said, I'm not going to, potentially bring anything or, like try to get her sick or anything like that. So I'm not going to play that year. And then was a first round draft pick. But like there are few, like the success stories of that nature of guys leaving early, few and far between. Jalen Phillips was like a man child, that same year. So like that one wasn't even like a real question. But yeah, if you look up and down, it's been more poor decisions, more than you can shake a stick at. And I would have to like really look to like go through the list, but lots and lots and lots of players leaving early when I don't think that they should have, unfortunately.
Falconer TRX. Miami coach and Delta Club Boston Sunday. Who are we after?
I think that you stumped me. No. I get you. I don't know. You can follow the visits and see like, where people go. And, a lot of times, during the season, be like, oh, like, this coach was in Oregon, like he flew into, whatever. And like, that was when we were sending John Richt over to go recruit Michael Johnson Jr., his dad, Michael Johnson, the wide receivers coach at Oregon at the time. And we kept sending him every single week. It's just like, okay, well, if this coach is here, then like that's a direct link to this player. Or if he's at St. Thomas Aquinas, you're going for this guy, or da-da-da. I will have to look into that one. I think, yeah, you stumped the Schwab on that one, brother. I don't know.
All right. I think we have hit the end of the line unless there's something we've missed.
No, I think that that's it, man. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet because I am hungry and I need to get some food. But always good to talk to you guys. StateOfU.com is the website. Please come on over and fan with us. Got lots of good stuff, planning out the summer schedule for content. So we have all of those things for you. And yeah, always love seeing you guys. And we'll catch you soon.
See you all next week.